Good day, my friend. For those who have been waiting 42 minutes for this to commence, for those who have been waiting, standing by, I want to apologize to you for the inconvenience. But let me let you know that life is like this. And I was on the phone, actually an old-fashioned conference call, not a Zoom, but a conference call, which I found to be most interesting. And I have to work on some last-minute changes for tomorrow's extravaganza at the Cutting Room in New York City, which I cannot... I know the word excited, I just put the link here. I know the word excited is used far too often in our lexicon because I'm excited about this, I'm excited about that. I am actually in an excitatory state because the information that is developing, that is writing itself, is more sometimes than I can even keep track of. And it is evolving monumentally. So please, tickets are available. I also did a series of comments as to a lot of things of import and the like regarding the latest goings on in the world of politics in a far deeper realm than one could ever imagine on my private channel, specifically documents that everyone seems to be talking about as to certain alleged classified items and the like. So if you would like to hear a very deep and thorough review of that, I invite you to do so. I want to talk about something which I find even more interesting. You know, life is nothing but a series of perspectives and things. Never put your talents in one basket. You as a human being have family, citizen concerns, business, health, your own well-being, your own view, your own faith, your own, etc., etc., etc. These are all of the things which you need drastically to focus on. And yesterday, yet again, we have another celebrity death of sorts. Lisa Marie Presley, who was only a celebrity because she's Elvis Presley's daughter. I'm not suggesting she's not, but I don't think she's ever, I don't know, I think she might have had a song, married Michael Jackson. Just you know and I know, a most unique, dare I say, life that she's lived. And she died. Cardiac arrest of some sort. And for her mother, for any parent to bury a child, there is nothing that we as human beings can put into words how that works. We cannot. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We are not in the position to attribute such. But I want to tell you something that from the time I was a young person, and I don't know when, death has fascinated me. Every aspect of it. Everything. And when you talk to people about it, what most people, I think, mistakenly will say is you're being morbid. I'm thinking, there's nothing morbid about this. This is an absolute truth. This is exactly the way life is. There's nothing away from it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You know, when you look at this notion, when you look at this thing called cardiac arrest, I always thought, in fact, sometimes people used to not joke, there's nothing funny, but when somebody would pass away, people would say, what happened to Joe? And say, oh, his heart stopped. And you say, oh, okay. And that explains virtually all forms of cessation of life. That's it. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Your heart stopped. And what also fascinated me, in addition to this, I mean, here she is, 54 years old. It says here she died, according to the AP, she died Thursday after being hospitalized earlier that day. We don't know the particular report of a full cardiac arrest, CPR, etc., etc. I'll let you read those particular aspects of that. But I want to tell you what happened in my own. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about not the morbid. Again, I don't know what morbid is. People who are fixated, I think, unnaturally, people who perhaps might look at the notion of death. I don't know how you can do this pathologically. Morbid, by the way, is defined as characterized by an unusual interest in disturbing and unpleasant subjects, especially death and disease. Unusual. Now, morbid, as you know, of the nature of or indicative of disease. You've heard of the term comorbidity. You've heard of morbid obesity. This is not necessarily obesity that deals with death, but something that is disease. Nomenclature. Learn the language. Focus on this. Focus on the language. I want to talk about this. Before I begin, or before we continue, I also want to mention something which I have been, I would be remiss if I did not mention one of our great and our glorious sponsors, My Pillow. That's right, My Pillow, and I want you to use promo code Lionel, or as some people say, for reasons I will never understand, Lionel. I think it comes from that Lionel train. Sometimes people say Lionel. But in any event, there it is right now, mypillow.com. Use the promo code Lionel and receive a free gift. One of my favorite concepts of tautology. A tautology is a redundant word. It uses the word, not an oxymoron, not like jumbo shrimp and things like that, but it's like a needless repetition of something. Anyway, free gift, I think, because gift implies free. In any event, or you can call 800-645-4965. What I want you to do is to spend some time perusing the mypillow.com deals, the biggest bed sheet sales ever. My Pillow Percale sheet sets, the overstock sale, the slippers. My slippers, this was a bigger hit, from what my sources tell me, than anything you can imagine. My Pillows, My Pillow sandals, their sleep systems, mattress toppers, down blankets. You will never know. Maybe you did know this, but I was not as familiar with all of the particular aspects of the sleep nomenclature. So I invite you again, mypillow.com, use promo code Lionel, or call, as I said, the number there, because I don't know about you, but I still use landlines constantly, 800-645-4965. Let me show you the book that was one of my books that changed my life. It is called, this is my original copy, How We Die by, let me get rid of the glare, How We Die by Sherwin Newland. And he is the father of Victoria Newland, who I believe is in the State Department, Undersecretary of State, I believe, for whatever, Newland. And this is, he also did some wonderful lectures and discussions on depression and ECT. And this is the book that was transformational in my life. And it took the notion of death, the process of it. I want to know how. I want to know how. Why does somebody die? Why? When? Because it fascinates me. There are, as you know, in the world of medicine, there's apoptosis, the ending of something. One of the reasons why, do you know what this is called? This particular web part here, this is called the perlicue. And this webbing, if it were allowed to grow, we would have webbed, we would look like a duck, like some kind of, some marine mammal. Were it not for this development stopping, this apoptosis, this death, so to speak, the cessation of growth. So it's critical for things to turn off. You have to turn things off. Enzymes work like this. There's acetylcholine and acetylcholinesterase. When you hear ASC, you know it's an enzyme. And the reason why this is that if you were to reach out and there was no reason for that particular acetylcholine to ever be recalled, so to speak, to be neutralized, you would be reaching out indefinitely. You would be reaching out to the point where you would be losing, control or what have you. You would be reaching out invariably. SSRI, selective serotonin, right? Serotonin, and then reuptake inhibitors. So there's always this balance. And what Newland says, he was a Yale surgeon, what Newland says was that that death is not an oops. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the earlier portion of it, you should not be, I think 54 certainly is too early. But what Newland says is that it is something that is a part of life, that if we did not have death, and if Benjamin Franklin were still around, we'd be wearing button shoes and there would be no movement. There would be nothing new. We would be listening to Guy Lombardo or Mozart forever. Because the people who were in charge, Mozart's litany would remain in charge and there would be no Beatles because there has to be this. So it's a recycling. And again, the process of it. Why do some people die? And what happens? When does it die? What happens when you drown? What happens during cancer? What happens during stroke? What happens? Why? Okay, you fell down. You broke your neck. What happens when you break your neck? Well, what does that mean? Why? How? And with all of the talk about certain aspects of dying, I don't want to go into the specifics of this, you would think that people would be more aware of this and talk about it. It's very interesting. When we have statues around, who are these statues to? These are dead people. What is a statue? It's a commemoration of life. Somebody's life, somebody who's not here now. Where are they? They're dead. And whenever something happens, what is the first thing that humans do? The first thing is we try to make sense out of it. It's a kind of a post hoc rationalization. Well, they come in threes. Do they? What do you mean threes? How about 3 million? What are you talking? What if there was no death? What if it never happened? Of course there has to be. To be recycled. I found the notion of decomposition fascinating. I, as a former prosecutor, would have to deal with forensic pathology and medical examiners and people. And I'll never forget, one time we had a deposition. It was a murder case. And remember, the rule of the prosecutor deposition is you ask no questions. This is your witness. Why are you asking questions? Unless you want to clarify something. He's your witness. Don't ask him anything. If I want to talk to him, I can pick up the phone. The other side, the defense lawyer, is talking to this lawyer because it's the only time they can talk prior to the case, prior to cross-examination. So, after everybody left, we were kind of cleaning up. I said, let me ask you a question, doctor. So when does death actually take place? What is the last light to turn off? And it was fascinating. Is it cellular death? Is it brain death? Is it what happens? Well, it could be days later. Could be. So it's a subject which I think it's not necessarily ghoulish. It's not necessarily problematic. But I think as an adult, I think it's critical that we have to look at this. When I look at Lisa Marie, what is the thing that you notice? What do you notice? How many of you fine people noticed her eyes? The eyes of her father. They look almost sad. It's not an epicanthus. The eyes. The eyes are they're everything. That's why a lot of cosmetic surgery bothers me on the part of people, because people lose the essence and the beauty of the eyes, the ability to sparkle, to look, to see, to wink and blink, and it's so critical. But her eyes are her father's eyes. Remember that song? He had his father's eyes and his mother's point of view. Vonda Shepard. I love that song. Don't Cry, Eileen. Beautiful song. Her eyes. It's her father. It's her father. And then, because human beings tend to do this, in my opinion, humans love to wax romantic. We're always trying to make sense out of things. What do you got there? That's my lucky rabbit's foot. That's my luck. That's my good luck charm. That's my thing. Why? Because I'm trying to control. I wore this one time, and I had this, and I was very lucky at the casino. I never sit here. I never put my back to the wall. Joey Gallo had his back to the wall. I wear my, in the world of theater, superstition is absolutely. Here's an interesting side note, little sidebar. My friend was a bartender at a midtown, very famous midtown bar, restaurant, but a bar section. It was in the theater district, still there. And Yul Brynner came in. And Yul Brynner was doing something, and my friend was whistling or doing something. And Yul Brynner said, "Don't do that. That's bad luck." So my friend, who was a very formidable character from the West Side, said, "Well, that may be okay in your theater, but this is my bar, and if I want to whistle, I can whistle." And anyway, make a long story short, but later on they became buddies, and Yul Brynner said, "Do you know why whistling is considered bad luck in the theater? Do you know why?" He said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, in the old days, before mechanized electronics, and when you wanted to lower a scene, raise a scene, bring something, they had sandbags. And you would whistle for once, and it would raise this or lower this. So if you're whistling, somebody could get killed theoretically. Something could fall, something could be whatever. So anyway, that was the... By the way, another side note, the number of theaters that are haunted, purportedly haunted. We went to the Helen Hayes Theater. Was it? Where was it when we went to? Was it Helen Hayes? Where was the theater where they had where they could see the? It's where Rock of Ages is. What is that? Helen Hayes. People would swear they would be performing, and somebody would open up a door and look, and actors would say, "Who was that person that they saw during the course of the play or whatever?" They said, "Oh no, that's no person. That's purportedly a spirit." And we'll talk about that one other day too. But people said this repeatedly. Anyway, and you see, let me stop you right there. Let me stop me right there. Let me stop right now. My friends, let me ask you a very simple question. And I want you to answer either yes or no? Do you believe that there are things, there are frequencies, there are areas of consideration and areas of consciousness, existence that transcend the here and now, the corporeal? Do you believe there are things, you can call them ghosts or spirits or dimensions and frequencies and levels of communication that we cannot understand, that we cannot grasp, we cannot see? There were times when Leeuwenhoek, before the microscope, when they found polywogs and little paramecia in pond water, they thought people were crazy. They go, what are you talking about? They go, well, we can't see them. What do you mean you can't see them? Are they invisible? No, they're not invisible. They're just tiny little creatures that we can't see. What are you, crazy? Well, look through here. Well, what is this thing? It's a microscope. Anton van Leeuwenhoek or Leeuwenhoek. Look. Oh my gosh. Then fungi. My God. This is probably the E. coli, your gut biome. Oh my, just little atoms and neutrinos and gravitons, and I mean, it's just, and we think nothing of it. Ultraviolet, infrared, the spectrum. Bugs can see things. You can see things. This was monumental. Our eyes see nothing. What they hear is nothing. The other day we were at a friend's house and I'm watching this dog. And I swear to you, my hearing is very good. It's very good. It was very quiet. I heard nothing. I could hear the of a clock. And all of a sudden, this dog, head goes up, and I knew his owner was coming. I heard nothing. No door slam, no keys, nothing. There was for me. And this dog knew. Sure enough. It was I don't know if this thing, the guy could have been down the block for all I know. This dog heard this. Knew, or better yet, if the dog could speak, the dog may say, I didn't hear anything. I felt it. Wow. I love that. When dogs can smell, we consider to be like, Hearing is, I've got great hearing. I've got great eyesight. I'm like an eagle. I'm pitch perfect. But I can smell. The reason why we give it such short shrift is because we don't smell. The inside, the nasal cavity of a dog, over these spirals, there's so much surface area. Not only that, their olfactory lobe, they can smell like we can see colors. They can smell cancers. They can smell, oh my God. I think I told you this. I'm going to tell you the story again. I had a case years ago. It was a young lady, a young girl. She was in her bunk bed. This guy came through the window, did something inappropriate to her, and then walked out the window, or went out the window. Young family, African American family, not in the country, but in an area that was big acreage. Deputy sheriff came up with the dog. The dog goes up to each, and it was a German Shepherd, and they were kind of dogs. Here you go. No, the dog is so sweet. Dog was not an attack dog. The dog just said. So I don't know how he communicated. I don't know how you train him. I don't know how this is done. But the trainer said, okay, smell these people. You got them? Mom, dad, sister, brother, victim. Okay, put that over here. Now, Go to this curtain. Smell that. That's the guy. That's the one we're looking for. The dog says, got it. And by the way, when we were doing this interview at the time, the deputy says, do you mind if I bring the dog up to your office? Because this is in Florida, and I can't leave it in the car. I said, of course, obviously. Well, I had this really tiny office, these prosecutors we had. It wasn't even in an office. It was just, I don't know what it was. And all of a sudden he came in, and lo and behold, this thing reeked a smell that made me tear. Made me tear. I thought, oh my gosh. I said, do you ever wash this dog? He looked at me and says, wash it? He says, it's a tracker. No. I said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know what that means. He goes, why? He says, when the dog is out in the dark, it'll kind of brush up against something. And if he smells himself, he says, I've already been here. He uses his own senses. I had no idea. So anyway, they're out in the woods. And each dog, sometimes this dog's signal that he found the person was to sit up. And as he sat up, the deputy took his flashlight out, held it with the gun, his pistol, so that the bad guy theoretically would shoot towards the light, which is over here. He's got the pistol there. And he looks, and there's nothing. There's nobody there. And he was rather concerned about this dog, and he said, oh, come on. He goes, he pulls the chain or gives the search signal again, and again the dog looks up and says, I told you, he's here. And just then these leaves moved, and his hand went up, and he says, you got me. And the dog, he says, oh my God, looks at him like, so, think I've lost my stuff. Do you know how long they tracked this? For hours. I don't know, a mile too much. And eliminated their smells, because their smells were there too. He said, oh, you're looking for this guy. Okay, because if he had confused mom's scent, he would have gone back to, no. This was his dog. Now that is a genius that I don't even know how to, and you mean to tell me that's just perception? That's not even mysterious. It's wild to us because because our sense, either through evolution or whatever it is, we've lost that. Humans act very odd when someone dies. There's something, even you've seen elephants have done this, and elephants have shown this, and elephants, there's a mourning, there's a sense of loss, there's a sense of cessation. There is something that is almost hardwired. And listen to this one, which is very interesting. Not only do we have a sense of an appreciation for death when a loved one or whatever, but we also have a sense of when we are experiencing a sickness or an injury where people have said, I'm dying. Let me ask you, have any of you wonderful people ever, God forbid, I hope never, ever had a panic attack where you thought, I'm going to die? Where you feel this almost a compression? It almost mimics cardiac incidents, referred pain, a crushing, like not really an angina, but a sense of like dread, doom, end. It's like nothing you felt before. Have you felt that? Have you heard that? Have you seen this? It's a fear. It's not really a fear. It's not like, oh, I'm afraid of something. Because a fear, you can identify it. You can say, oh, I'm afraid of that dog. I'm afraid of that thing. I'm afraid of that. That's different. This, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're just all of a sudden feeling this. And people have gone to the hospital. People have said, I am dying. I am dying. And they're not being, extraordinary or out of touch. They're not being, it's true. They feel this like nothing else. It's just, this is an incredible thing, this internal, because you see, as we, and this is the best part, as we become developed, and as we go through these expansive evolutionary levels of whatever it is that we are, we tend to lose, or think that we lose, that which is considered instinctual. Instinct is one thing. Reflexes are one thing. Instinct is another. Something happens, but it's still there. If you want to see it, look at a mother with her child. Look what happens to a mother. Look what happens to a mother. Something happens. The wildest thing of them all, I think, of what we as humans experience, is to watch what happens when a child grows inside a mother. And they are cosmically entangled and entwined. Spiritually, cosmically, they're one and the same, and they are internal, and they become, and they share, and they're connected, and it's just wow. And it's one of those things that is so. And women, this to me is the most interesting. Women who you would think, who might have said, ooh, that's icky, or may not have necessarily been the most profoundly assertive in terms of territorial protection, when it comes to that child. I mean, it's like the cane corso, these dogs, these wolfhounds that have no sense of fear. This is the wildest thing. They don't have it. I mean, they might be a little, but they'll take on a pack of wolves. They don't have that. They've been trained. It's that. It's fascinating. And we had Jeff Beck the other day, and we have a number of stars in Pelé, and then we say, too soon. What's going on here? Why is this happening? This is where the epidemiologist comes into play. Well, why? What are we seeing here? And then people they're off to the races. Off to the races. They will come up with stuff you have never, ever even imagined. They will come up with, as you just use, name it. And I, of course, as you know, am a strong believer. I'm evidence-based. I like things as theories. I like things as maybe, well, that's interesting. That's a nice way of looking at things. But I kind of like, how do I say this? I like to see fact. And I look at this. Look at her, Lisa Marie. And then she was married to Michael Jackson. What was that? Michael Jackson, another horrible a waste of life. This incredible. This. I still think. I know you can't do it. I know it's impossible to necessarily quantify talent, but I think Prince was far more. Talented, but that doesn't make any sense. That's just me being whatever. I got to tell you something. That is something which, frankly, I do not understand anymore. Now, very quickly, let me remind you of something, which is very, very important, and very, very critical for me to let you know. From our friends at My Patriot Supply, right now, if you act quickly, you can save $250 on a 3-month emergency food kit. This is their lowest price in 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm putting up the link for you right this moment. I beg, beseech, entreat, importune, and ask you to peruse with great particularity the particular items found in and on this website, and look at what is available for you. Over 2,000 calories per day. 21 varieties with an up to a 25-year shelf life. This is a 3-month emergency food supply kit. with tasty viands and victuals and toothsome breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks. In resealable heavy-duty 4-layer pouches with oxygen absorbers. It weighs 120 pounds, made in the USA, no MSG added, sealed into 6 rugged, water-resistant buckets, ships free and fast and anonymously. And that's why you were to go to preparedwithlionel.com, 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 and see for yourself what millions of satisfied customers have found. Preparedwithlionel.com. My friends, have you ever had the opportunity of trying to explain to a child what death is? Death of a pet, death of a relative, death of somebody. It is one of the most interesting things to explain the extinction, theoretically, of something that was there. I still don't know where this is. And you go to the deaths of parents and deaths of whatever, and they're there one moment, and then they are not. And from the beginning of time, man has always said, there's something different with this. Where did they go? Where was that life force? Where was that life spirit? They were here one moment, and then they're gone. When you see YouTube, I watch Gore Vidal interviews. I listen to them all the time. Bertrand Russell, Oppenheimer. You're listening to them. You're listening to them breathe. You're listening to them pronounce. You're listening to the way they pronounce words. You realize they were here. They were right in front of you, talking, thinking, being, imagining, right there in front of you. And they're gone. Where did they go? Yes, I know there's this. And I used to think about, this is a spacesuit, and the spacesuit contains our spirit. And I always liked the idea of explaining a balloon, because a child would ask you, well, what happened? He said, well, it's like a balloon. Here, is this a balloon? Well, yeah. Well, what is it missing? Air. What is air? What is it? That's life. And when the air is out of the balloon, it's still a balloon, but it's not functional. Oh, and you can try that. You can maybe do this. You can talk about heaven. You can talk about the way we have ceremonies for entombment, in burial. Fascinating. I still am fascinated. I look at, I don't know about you, but in the New York area in particular, upstate, you see some of these old cemeteries. I love them. There's something that's so, especially the old tombs. I saw the cemeteries in Israel, where you can imagine. It's a fascinating subject. And there's so many, the reasons why I don't say I like the subject, but the reason why it intrigues me so much is that there's so much there. There's so much there was a friend of a woman we know who was getting her degree in mortuary sciences. By the way, interesting thing. The term, it was gravedigger, mortician. I'm getting the order wrong. Gravedigger, mortician. I think funeral director was last. A mortician. Oh, Undertaker. Remember the song Undertaker by Willie Nelson? Anyway, gravedigger. Excuse me. And then there was this, they planned on having this word thanatician, from thanatos, a Greek for death. Never came about. But it's always there. And so we knew this young lady who says she's going to mortuary school to learn how to embalm. People say, ooh. And I thought to myself, there's nothing ooh about it. It's fascinating. There's some great YouTube channels on it. I want to know how they do things. I love that. I want to know, how do you do this? Tell me what you do. Tell me the process. There's no such thing to me in my mind as icky, or it doesn't exist. It's a reality. It's a reality that accompanies life like nothing else. All right, my friends. Let me again say that I was on the phone. We're working on last-minute production tomorrow night. I would love so much to see you. To see you and yours. I put the wrong one there. That's a My Patriot Supply. Thank you very much. To see you at the Cutting Room. This is, Jeff Beck may very well have played there. Everybody plays there at some point. I think it's the best venue there is. And now that Caroline's, and by the way, this is in comedy. Let me tell you what I'm doing, though. Remember this. It is like nothing you've ever seen. It is communal. It is congratulatory. It is, how do I say this? It is the most unique thing you will ever find yourself involved in. That's all. This I can guarantee you. Nobody is doing this. Nobody is doing this. May I also ask something right now? Mrs. L has a YouTube channel that I want you to be aware of right now. And I'm putting up that link. Please honor us by going there and, of course, liking this and subscribing. But please check her channel out. It is incredible. It is something that is so interesting. And also, may I say, would you please subscribe to her newsletter as well? I'm giving you all the information, and you can just see for yourself. All right, my friends. Again, have a great and a glorious day. Thank you for being with us. Keep thinking. Keep asking questions. Keep just saying why, how. Just enjoy it. Everything is fascinating. Everything. It's up to you to determine how deep you want to go. See you tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel, 9 a.m. Eastern time. All right? Until then, as we always say, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Ta-ta.
Should we get ready to go out?
Yeah, let me just finish.